From the Rio Grande Valley, good morning, good evening to you. Across the nation, around the world, I am your host, Mikey, and you're tuned in to Out of the Ordinary on PBDC TV. Let's say hello to a couple people. Hi, Calvin. Hi, Liz. Hi, Jake. What's going on? Let's get a couple of people in here real quick. Yeah, today we're going to be talking about something interesting. We're talking about the disappearance of Amelia Earhart, famous pilot. So let's get started. Amelia Earhart. Oh, so Jake says you've got a good broadcasting voice. Thank you, Jake. I thank you. Hi, Nadine. What's going on? Natalie, you're not late. I just barely started. All right. Let's get to him. Amelia Earhart, Amelia Mary Earhart, born July 24th, 1897, disappeared July 2nd, 1937. Declared dead on January 5th, 1939. Amelia was an American aviation pioneer and author. Earhart was the first female aviator to fly solo across the Atlantic Ocean. She set many other records, wrote best-selling books about her flying experiences, and was instrumental in the formation of the 1999s. Okay, sorry, I thought it said 1990. I was like, what? An organization for female pilots. Born in Atchison, Kansas, I don't know if I'm saying that right, Atchison, Kansas, Earhart developed a passion for adventure at a young age, steadily gaining flying experiences from her 20s. In 1928, Earhart became the first female passenger to cross the Atlantic by airplane, accompanying pilot Wilmer Schultz, for which she achieved celebrity status. In 1932, piloting a Lockheed Vega 5B, Earhart made a nonstop solo transatlantic flight, becoming the first woman to achieve such feat. All right, let's see what's in the comments here. Hey, Cosmo, what's going on, man? All right, okay. Where did I leave off at now? Geez, you see, that's what happens when I have a squirrel moment. So, Amelia Earhart received the United States Distinguished Flying Cross for this accomplishment in 1935. Earhart became a visiting faculty member at Purdue University as an advisor to aeronautical engineering and a career counselor to women students. She was also a member of the National Woman's Party and an early supporter of the Equal Rights Amendment. Jake says, you see, when you let them out of the kitchen, they decide to steal jobs for male pilots. Oh my God. So during an attempt at becoming the first female to complete a circumnavigational flight of the globe in 1937, in a Purdue-funded Lockheed Model 10E Electra, Earhart and navigator Fred Noonan disappeared over the Central Pacific Ocean near Howland Island. The two were last seen in Lee, New Guinea on July 2nd of 1937 on the land stop before Howland Island. And one of their final legs of the flight, she presumably lost her life in the Pacific during the circumnavigation. Just 3 weeks prior to her 40th birthday, nearly 1 year and 6 months after she and Noonan disappeared, Earhart was officially declared dead. Investigations and significant public interest in their disappearance still continued over 80 years later. Oh, hello, Sherry. Just in time. So, Maud says, leave it to a female to write books about flying. And then also they said she was a badass. Yeah, she was, actually. Well, let's get into some more here. And Genevieve, hey, welcome. Haven't seen you in a while. So, there has been considerable speculation on what happened to Earhart and Noonan. Most historians hold a simple crash and sink theory, but a number of other possibilities have been proposed, including several conspiracy theories. And person behind the curtain, can you show some pictures of Amelia Earhart, please? See, that's Amelia right there standing by her plane. And that's her actually, in civilian clothes, not wearing pilot clothes. She was very beautiful, I'll tell you that much. There she is again with another one of her planes. And there she is in her pilot gear. So there she is getting ready to take off. And I think that's the plane that she disappeared in. That's that right there. That's a, what do you call that? A headstone, or I guess a monument in her name and everything like that, remembering her and stuff like that. So let's get back to this. So some have suggested that Earhart and Noonan survived and landed elsewhere, but were either never found or killed, making en route locations like Tarwana unlikely. Proposals have included the uninhabited Gardner Island, 400 miles from the vicinity of Howland, the Japanese-controlled Marshall Islands, 870 miles at the closest point of Mili Atoll, and the Japanese-controlled Northern Mariana Islands, which is 2,700 miles from Howland. Many researchers believe that Earhart and Noonan ran out of fuel while searching for Howland Island, ditched at sea, and died. The plane would have carried enough fuel to reach Howland with some extra to spare. The extra fuel would cover some contingencies such as headwinds and searching for Howland. The plane could fly compass course towards Howland through the night. In the morning, the time of apparent sunrise would allow the plane to determine its line of position, a sun line that ran 157 degrees to 337 degrees. So here we got Natalie saying her story will always be a fascinating story. I kind of hope it's never solved. I love mystery. Well, I mean, it really hasn't been solved. I mean, who knows what really happened to Amelia Earhart and Noonan? Like, not even Robert Stack and them in Unsolved Mystery. They couldn't even figure it out either. So yeah, it's probably gonna remain one of those, mysteries that never will be solved. And Liz says, I've seen them say that they found her body. Yes, they actually have said that they found her body, but they really don't know if it actually is her or not. Like they said they found it, but they never gave any more information. And Sherry says, some say it had gotten lost beyond the Bermuda Triangle. See, that's another one of those things that Yes, I have heard, but she was lost in the Pacific Ocean, and the Bermuda is in the Atlantic Ocean. So, yeah. From that line, the plane could determine how much further it must travel before reaching a parallel sun line that ran, oh God, that ran through Howland. At 6:14 a.m. Itasca time, Earhart estimated they were 200 miles away from Howland. As the plane closed with Howland, it expected to be in radio contact with Itasca. With with the radio contact, the plane should be able to use radio direction finding (RDF) to head directly for the Itasca and Howland. Unfortunately, the plane was not receiving a radio signal from Itasca, so it would be unable to determine an RDF bearing to the ship. Although Itasca was receiving HF radio signals from the plane, it did not have HF or RDF equipment, so it could not determine the bearing to the plane. So let's go back to some comments here. Nadine says she'll reappear at some other time or dimension. Hey, that could be true, you know. I mean, anything's possible in the world nowadays with how weird the world works nowadays, and it's anything's possible. And we have Natalie saying, yeah, it's the best verification we have so far, but even that's not 100%. I don't think we have access to the bones, but do have some personal effects. Yes. The communications going to the plane were almost non-existent. Consequently, the plane was not directed to Howland. It was left on its own with little fuel. Presumably, the plane reached the parallel sun line and started searching for Howland on that line of position. At 7:42, Amelia Earhart reported, "We must be on you, but we cannot see you. But gas is running low. Have been unable to reach you by radio. We are flying at 1,000 feet." At 8:43 a.m., Earhart reported, "We are on the line 157337. We will repeat this message. We will repeat on 6210 kilocycles. Wait." Between Earhart's low on fuel message at 7:42 a.m. and her last confirmed message at 8:43, her signal strength remained consistent, indicating that she never left the Howland Island immediate area, or that she had the fuel to do so. The U.S. Coast Guard approached the island, nodding signal levels from her reports of 200 and 100 miles out. These reports were roughly 30 minutes apart, providing vital ground speed clues. Based on the facts, the lack of additional signals from Earhart, the Coast Guard, first responders initiating the search concluded that she ran out of fuel somewhere very close to and north of Howland. And you see, we got a Mod says it still did not fully explain what happened, right? And then Natalie says quantum theory says it's possible. And then Sherry says that could be true. Amelia Earhart could be the monster, and the doctor hasn't found her yet. Then Mod says quantum theory would suggest that she indeed is in another dimension. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, look at the guy from the story about the man from Torad, where he ended up appearing in some other country or something like that, and he basically there was no such thing as Torad. There was no such thing as where he worked, and he was providing all his IDs and everything like that, right? So, yeah, I do believe in other dimensions. So Natalie says, "Them damn bubble dimensions." Then Nadine says, "There's portals all over Earth." Yes, there is, especially portals to hell. or the time warp like Rocky Horror. Yes, yes, yes. Let's do the time. Yes, I'm a time traveler. I do warp sometimes. Then Sherry says, so maybe Amelia Earhart is a time lord? Ah, maybe. I mean, I haven't ran into her or anything like that to say the least, but yeah, maybe she is. Then Natalie says, I want that one. So Captain Lawrence Safford, USNRET, who was responsible for the interwar Mid-Pacific Strategic Direction Finding Net. Wow, that's long. And the decoding of the Japanese purple cipher messages for the attack on Pearl Harbor, began a lengthy analysis of the Earhart flying during the 1970s. His research included the intricate radio transmission documentation. Safford came to the conclusion: poor planning, worse execution. Rear Admiral Richard R. Black from the USN, who was in administrative charge of the Howland Islands, excuse me, airstrip, and was present in the radio room on the Isaka, asserted in 1982 that the Electra went into the sea about 10 a.m., July 2nd, 1937, not far from Howland. British aviation historian Roy Nesbitt interpreted evidence in contemporary accounts that Putnam's correspondence and concluded Earhart's Electra was not fully fueled at William L. Polyhumus, the navigator on Anne Pellegrino's 1967 flight that followed Earhart and Noonan's original flight path, studied navigational tables for July 2nd, 1937. And though Noonan may have miscalculated the single line approach intended to hit Howland, David Jourdan, a former Navy submariner and ocean engineer specializing in deep sea recoveries, has claimed any transmission attributed to Gardner Island were false. Through his company Nauticos, he excessively searched a 1,200 square mile quadrant northwest of Howland Island during 2 deep sea sonar expeditions, 2002 and 2006, total cost $4.5 million, and found nothing. The search locations were derived from the line of position 157 and 337. Broadcast by Earhart on July 2nd, 1937, nevertheless, Elgin Long interpretations have led Jourdan to conclude the analysis of all the data we have, the fuel analysis, the radio calls, other things, tells me that she went into the water off Howland. Earhart's stepson, George Palmer Putnam Jr., has been quoted as saying he believes the plane just ran out of gas. Susan Butler, author of the Earhart biography, East to Dawn, says she thinks the aircraft went into the ocean out of sight of Howland Island and rest on the seafloor at a depth of 17,000 feet. Tom D. Crouch, senior curator of the National Air and Space Museum, has said that Earhart and Noonan Electra is 18,000 feet down and may even yield a range of artifacts that could rival the finds of the Titanic. Adding to that, the mystery is part of what keeps us interested. In part, we remember her because she's our favorite missing person. So let's go to some comments here. Okay, so Mod says, that's lame, so they didn't pay attention, or did they not fuel her up all the way on purpose? Now, that could be possible. And also, it could be possible that they really weren't paying attention. So, yes, that's another call. Another. And Sherry says Amelia Earhart might have crashed, forgot who she was, and fell in love and lived out her days. That could be possible too. Then Maud says, wouldn't it have taken a little time to sink all the way? Um, well, I mean, it is an aircraft, and I mean, aircrafts really are heavy, and I'm pretty sure they did. But here we go with something else. The unresolved circumstances of Earhart's disappearance, along with her frame, attracted a great body of other claims relating to her last flight. Several unsupported theories have become known in popular culture, like such as Tokyo Rose. So there's a rumor that claimed that Earhart had made propaganda radio broadcasts as one of the many women compelled to serve as Tokyo Rose was investigated closely by George Putnam. According to several biographies of Earhart, Putnam investigated this rumor personally, but after listening to many recordings of numerous Tokyo Roses, he did not recognize her voice among them. And then also, people claim that she was a spy for Franklin D. Roosevelt. So it says, the World War II era movie Flight for Freedom, 1943, is the story of a fictional female aviator, obviously inspired by Earhart, who engages in a spying mission in the Pacific. The movie helped further a myth that Earhart was spying on the Japanese in the Pacific at the request of Franklin D. Roosevelt's administration. By 1949, the United Press and the U.S. Army intelligence had concluded that this rumor was groundless. Jackie Cochran, other pioneering aviators, and one of Earhart's friends made a post-war search of numerous files in Japan and was convinced that the Japanese were not involved in Earhart's disappearance. So, Nat says, good question. And then Sherry says, maybe she was taken by the men in black and she did some secret stuff that they did not want people to know. So they had to get rid of her. I don't know about that because men in black usually work with like UFOs and stuff like that. I mean, it was never mentioned that, Earhart ever saw UFOs or any extraterrestrial things. But yeah, that does sound good, but I wouldn't believe it. I wouldn't believe that, but all right. So let's get on to the next story here. It's called Who Put Bella in the Witch Elm? And it's not WITCH, it's WYCH. Witch elm it's an actual tree. So on April 18th, 1943, four local boys, Robert Hart, Thomas Willits, Bob Farmer, and Fred Payne, were poaching or bird nesting in Hagley Wood, part of the Hagley estate belonging to Lord Cobham near Witchbury Hill, when they came across a large wych elm. Thinking the location to be particularly a good place to hunt birds' nests, Farmer attempted to climb the tree to investigate. As he climbed, he glanced down into the hollow trunk and discovered a skull. At first, he believed it to be that of an animal, but after seeing human hair and teeth, he realized that he had found a human skull. As they were on the land illegally, Farmer put the skull back, and all four boys returned home without mentioning their discovery to anybody. However, on returning home, the youngest of the boys, Willits, felt uneasy about what he had witnessed and decided to report the finds to his parents. So, when police checked the trunk of the tree, they found an almost complete skeleton with a shoe, a gold wedding ring, and some fragments of clothing. The skull was valuable evidence in that in that it still had some tufts of hair and had a clear dental pattern. Despite some missing teeth, after further investigation, the remains of a hand were found some distance from the tree. The body was sent to forensic examinations by James Webster, who quickly established that it was that of a female who had been dead for at least 18 months, placing time of death in or before October of 1941. Webster also discovered a section of taffeta in her mouth, suggesting that she had died from suffocation. From the measurement of the trunk in which the body had been discovered, he also deduced that it must have been placed there, still warm after the killing, as it could not have fit once rigor mortis had taken hold. So, before we get in further to this, let's get into a commercial, shall we?
This is Mikey from Out of the Ordinary, and you're watching PBDC TV.
First thing in the morning, when I'm listening to music and getting a little bit of time for some creepy research, I'm always representing with my PBDC merch. What a better way to have a cup of coffee in the morning.
Don't forget to check out our other cool merch at rootsbleedred.com. That's rootsbleedred.com.
This is Professor Edgar Fluffosaurus from Spooky Tales with Steve the Cat, And when I'm not hosting Monster Chat or knocking down small Japanese cities, I'm watching PBDC TV. Now back to the show.
This is Mikey. Mikey, get off that radio. And we're back. So let's continue the story about who put Bella in the witch elm. Police could tell from items found with the body what the woman had looked like, but with so many people reported missing during the Second World War, records were too numerous for a proper identification to take place. They cross-referenced the details they had with the reports of missing persons throughout the region, but none of them seemed to match the evidence. In addition, they contacted dentists all over the country since the dentistry was quite distinctive. In 1944, a graffiti message related to the mystery appeared on a wall in Upper Dean Street in Birmingham, reading, "Who put Bella down in the witch elm?" Hagley Wood. This provided investigators with several new leads for tracing who the victim could have been. Other messages in the same hand appeared too. Since at least the 1970s, similar graffiti has sporadically appeared on Hagley obelisk near to where the woman's body was discovered, which asked the slightly modified, "Who put Bella in the witch elm?" An episode of the television program Nazi Murder Mysteries described a forensic facial reconstruction undertaken by the Liverpool John Moores University Face Lab. From photographs of the skull, it was commissioned by Andrew Spark for his book on the incident, my bad. In a Radio 4 program, first broadcast in August of 2014, Steve Punt suggested two possible victims. One possible victim was reported to the police in 1944 by Birmingham sex worker in a report that she stated that another sex worker called Bella, who worked on the Hagley Road, had disappeared about 3 years previously. The name Bella or Lucibella suggested the graffiti writer was probably aware of the identity of the victim. A second possibility came from a statement made to police in 1953 by Una Mossop, in which she said that her ex-husband Jack Mossop had confessed to the family members that he and Dutchman called Van Ralt had put the woman in the tree. Mossop and Van Ralt met for a drink at the Littleton Arms, a pub in Hagley. Later that night, Mossop said the woman became drunk and passed out while they were driving. The men put her in a hollow tree in the woods in the hope that in the morning she would wake up and be frightened into seeing the error of her ways. Jack Mossop was confined to a Stafford mental hospital because he had reoccurring dreams of a woman staring out at him from a tree. He died in the hospital before the body in the witch elm was found. The likelihood of this being the correct explanation is questioned because Una Mossop did not come forward with this information until more than 10 years after Jack Mossop's death. Another theory comes up from the MI5 declassified files of Joseph Jacobs, the last man to be put to death in the Tower of London on August 15th of 1941. An Auber agent had parachuted into the Cambridgeshire in 1941, but broke his ankle when landing and was soon arrested by the Home Guard. On his person was found a photo purportedly of his lover, German cabaret singer and actress named Clara Baroli. Jacob said that she was being trained as a spy and that he had made contact. She might have been sent over to England after him. However, there is no evidence that Clara Barul was around 6 feet tall, while Bella was 5 feet tall. In September of 2016, it was determined that Clara Barul had died in Berlin on the 16th of December of 1942. So Ahmad says that would be the right time if they wanted to solve the case without somehow actually getting in trouble for it, right? So in 1945, Margaret Murray, an anthropologist and archaeologist at the University College London, proposed a more radical theory, witchcraft. Because she believed that the severing of one's hand was consistent with the ritual called the Hand of Glory. After the victim has been killed by gypsies during an occult ritual, her ideas excited the local press and led investigators to consider another seemingly ritualistic killing of a man, Charles Walton, in nearby Lower Quinton. In 1953, another theory surfaced, namely that the victim was a Dutch woman named Clarabella Dronkers, and she had been killed by a German spy ring consisting of British officers, a Dutchman, and a music hall artist for knowing too much. Available records and evidence were unable to support the story. And guys, it's a short one, but that's all I have for today. A quick announcement: I will not be on next Monday because I have certain errands to run and everything like that. But thank you for tuning in today. And this was Out of the Ordinary. I'm Mikey saying good night.
Coming to you live from Psycho 13. Join us here throughout the week for all things in audio, visual, and literary content. You can also find us on the World Wide Web at psychomantium13.com. Join Psychomantium 13 and enter the weird.
Set the world fire. I'm the lost soul of a baby. In my I have only desire. Applewhite speaking. There is nothing wrong with your device. Join me here on Psycho Bunny DC. A delightfully dreadful consternation of horror content